The Canadian dollar isn't doing too hot. The latest news is US President-elect Donald Trump threatening a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods going to the US. That helped push our dollar down to around 70 cents, its lowest level in at least 5 years. So, who are the winners and losers of a lower loonie? Let's start with the basics. What decides how the Canadian dollar is doing? Economists say part of it is whether investors think Canada is a good place to put their money.
The market for US dollars, the market for Canadian dollars, the market for any major currency is going to respond to the underlying attractiveness of that economy for investors, the strength of the economy in terms of growth and consumer spending and so on.
The Canadian economy isn't exactly going gangbusters right now. In other words, its underlying attractiveness isn't looking all that attractive. And that's not the only thing that can cause turbulence for the loonie.
Oil prices are down as well. We're below $70 a barrel now. That's certainly disappointing for the government of Alberta and royalty revenues here, but it's a major export commodity for Canada as a whole. And when the price of things that we export falls, the dollar goes down as well.
The fact that the Canadian economy is not doing as well as the US is also not helping our side of the equation.
So yeah, what's happening on this side of the border, like sluggish Canadian productivity, isn't helping. But outside forces influence our value too, including currency markets liking the looks of what's happening in the US.
Perhaps the most important reason why the dollar has been low recently is developments in the United States, so the election and expectations around what a new Trump administration might mean. And in particular, the expectations of pretty large tax cuts in the United States, really stimulative fiscal policy, things that would boost the US economy.
The better the US looks, the more their dollar goes up. And since our dollar is measured against theirs, the loonie falls. It's all relative. And it's not just Canada that gets impacted by what happens in the States. It's the entire world. Dollar valuation is based on an international market. Not a lot of places are doing well compared to the US. The better news for Canada? We stack up well against other countries, and our dollar still looks good compared to their currencies. So that's the big picture. But what does a low Canadian dollar mean for the average consumer? If you're a Canadian planning to take a trip to the States or buying things online from there, the exchange rate isn't going to be in your favor, so expect to pay a bit more for that kind of stuff. But even if you aren't planning a trip or spending your money down south, the low dollar will make things here more expensive.
Well, everybody who has to import is really those who have been affected, because suddenly anything you buy abroad is getting more expensive. So that goes for consumers who have a lot of our consumer goods are coming out from China, usually paid in US dollars. It also affects our energy imports, because all those global prices are in US dollars. Considering how much we consume that is made outside of Canada, it will be almost everything consumers have.
So imports, goods coming into Canada, those are more expensive when the dollar is low. But what about goods heading out of Canada, the exports?
Our exporters are actually benefiting from it, because suddenly what we export is actually cheaper for foreign buyers. So there's a bit more, it makes them a bit more competitive on international market. And a plus is that if they sell and price their items in US dollars, they actually make more revenues for the same items.
That's one plus of a lower dollar, and in Alberta, it isn't completely bad news.
It's a bit of a different story, because we benefit as being a big exporter. A big share of our economy is directed to the export sector, so a weaker Canadian dollar is actually helping our revenue. But it also helps other sectors or other part of the country. For Alberta, it will be helpful in some ways. Our biggest exports is our energy sector, and that is priced in US dollars. So each barrel is actually worth more once that money is brought back into Canada. So it's a benefit for Alberta on that front. But if we think about other sectors, consumers, well, will be hit more at when we get to pay for our goods.
That's good news for exporters and for Alberta's oil revenues, but still not great for consumers and other sectors of the economy. So how long is this going to last? If our economy starts perking back up, our dollar should recover. If the economy keeps stumbling, so could the loonie. But currencies are notoriously hard to predict. And for Canada, that might be even tougher than usual right now. Will Trump follow through on his tariff threats? Is he bluffing? Or is this just the start of what could be a tumultuous 4 years for Canada's economy and our dollar? Caroline Ferris, CBC News, Calgary.